Hi, Jack Olesker here for A Writer's Life. So happy to have all of you here. We're going to be talking about a number of different things today. And one of the things that I want to touch on is that I'm going to be telling you about a lot of things that's happened to me in my career, motion pictures, television, novels that I've written, produced, and directed. And you may think, well, okay, so this guy's done 1,200 episodes of television and he's done, these motion pictures and he's published 6 novels. Okay, so interesting. But what's the big deal? Well, I'll tell you the big deal. You want to get, if you want to be a writer, producer, and a director, you want to get valuable information. You don't get that by listening to some guy that had a friend that threw him 10 or 15 writing assignments for an animated show, or another friend that owned a publishing company, a vanity publishing company that published his novel, and he had buddies write up reviews for it. Those aren't real writers. Real writers don't do this as a hobby. They do this every single day, and they survive and they thrive in this industry. And you're able to take the hard blows and the years when you don't have a lot of money coming in. There's a great, I'll reference a lot of motion pictures. There's a great scene in Patton. He's walking through the battlefield and there's dead bodies all around and tanks are twisted and there's smoke going up to the sky, and he's with his aide de camp. And Patton looks up and he says, "God help me, I do love it so. I love it more than I love my life." And you better feel that way if this is what you're going to do. So you've got a guy that's done it. And I'm going to give you what I know will be valuable information and sometimes tips. And you're going to learn. The lady that's on the other side of this camera, when we first met, she had never written a screenplay. She had never written a commercial. She never directed anything. But over the years, she went with me on sets and she met producers and she met directors and she read all of my works and she started writing and she started doing second unit directing, and she ended up being a director and a producer and an award-winning one for that matter. And she learned a lot of this by osmosis because she had her blinders off. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to have your blinders off, and I want you to listen, because I'm going to give you valuable tips and information. One of the things we're going to do in this episode and in all of our episodes is we're going to have a segment called Jack's Tip Jar. It's going to come at the end of each episode. It's not going to be like the tip jar that you see when you walk into a liquor store or pizza parlor to pick up a pizza, and there's a jar there with dollar bills in it, and you feel obligated to throw a buck in there. This tip jar, Jack's tip jar, you're going to reach in and pull the tip out, and it's going to be valuable to you. It's going to help you learn what you need to do to be a writer, producer, and a director. And let me tell you something. You're watching this right now. You're spending your time watching it. You're already a writer, a producer, a director. Your shows are already airing. You simply need to move from this point in time to that one. And hopefully I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's talk about one of the most important things in writing. And again, it doesn't matter if it's books or whether it's motion pictures or television, and that's characters. Okay? I'll tell you what, let's put it a different way. I can't sit down and tell you scene by scene The Empire Strikes Back. I can't tell you scene by scene one of my favorite franchises, Rocky. But what I can do is I can sit down and I can write 5 pages on Rocky Balboa. I can write 10 pages about Apollo Creed. I can write 20 pages about Mick, because they are dynamic characters. You could take those characters and put them in a Western, put them in an erotic thriller, in a mystery. All of them would work. Case in point, there's a scene in Rocky towards the end. We hate Apollo Creed. We can't stand this guy. He's obnoxious. He's boisterous. Oh, I'm so great. And he's beat up on Rocky for 10 rounds. And in the 10th round, he does an uppercut and Balboa goes down to the ground. It's over. Apollo's throwing his hands up to the crowd. And Apollo turns around and he looks at Rocky, beaten and battered, grabbing the ropes one at a time, hoisting himself to his feet. And Apollo looks at Rocky, and without a word of dialogue, the scene goes. In that moment, Apollo Creed changes for all of us. We know that this guy that we couldn't stand before, all of a sudden is a good guy because he respects a warrior. Now, he's not going to turn into a good guy in this episode of the franchise. We're going to have to wait until the third installment when Rocky and Apollo gang up on Clubber Lang. But this character is a different character now. That's what you need to do. You need to find characters that are dynamic, that are fully fleshed out, and take those characters and put them into that which you are writing. And as I told you before, when you're writing, all right, now you got great characters. What do I do with them? Well, you need to know your beginning, you need to know your end, and you need to know 3 major points along the way. I'll go back to Rocky. I referred to that film a lot, okay, because it's seminal. There's a scene when he walks in, it's a plot point. He walks in the night before the fight, and Adrian's sleeping, and she wakes up and she says, "What is it?" And he says, "I can't beat him. He's the champion of the world. I'm just a club fighter. But if I can just go the distance, I'll know that I'm not just another bum from the neighborhood." Boom! That's one of those shining points in your script, in your book, in whatever you're writing. That's one of those stars that you're going to guide your script along. And then when you take great characters and plug them into it, wow, that's something else. So let's talk for a minute about Jack's tip jar. I'm going to tell you a really, really important tip. You can't do it alone. Yeah, you need a mentor, as we said in an earlier episode. You better find somebody that's going to help you along the way. But you got to have somebody that's going to be by your side, that's going to be there with you. And how difficult it must be for a wife or a husband or a partner of a writer, a producer, and a director to be on the sideline and not be able to do anything that has a direct impact. But what's wonderful is that they can have an indirect impact. You better find somebody that can do that for you, because the only thing more complicated than one human being in the world is 2 human beings together interacting. I don't care if your bond is that you both like to party. I don't care if your bond is you both love to surf. I don't care if your bond is that you have a wonderful work ethic, which I'm blessed to have with my spouse. But you better have a bond with that person. When Kim and I took questionnaire in the Catholic faith before we got married, we answered 30 questions, and the priest came in afterwards. He says, "I've never seen anything like this in 30 years when I've been a priest." He says, "Every one of your questions, you guys are like this." He said, the only thing you vary on is at the end, she likes to save money and you like to spend it. I said, don't worry, Father, she'll come around. So we were on the same page. We had family values. We had work ethic. We had so many values that were similar. And you better have a spouse or a lover or a best friend that feels the same way that you do on core values. You better have somebody that you can say, like I say about my wife, wheresoever she is, there is Eden, because that's how I feel about it. That's how I feel about her. I always add quickly, she's got a pretty good deal too. But go out there, if you've got somebody that fulfills all of those points, boy, hold on to them strong. If you don't, find somebody that does, because you can't do it by yourself. I'll see you in the next episode. Have a blessed day.